What's up YouTube, I'm Mike, and today I'm back with a new bodybuilding video. I had to take a little bit of a hiatus yesterday and get in a little gaming. Diablo 4 Season 3 came out. So I started a barbarian class, never played that before. You guys don't give a shit, you probably don't play video games. So today what we're talking about is how Masteron is destroying my marriage. Now, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, I've seen this video already, except it was titled Trenbolone is Destroying My Marriage. Well, I am on Trenbolone again as well, but this time I'm not willing to place the blame on the Trenbolone, and I'm going to tell you why. I made the catastrophic mistake of massively underestimating the anti-estrogen power of Masteron. And I blame you guys for that, actually. I'm putting this solely at the foot of the bodybuilding community. Now, you're probably going, well, why would you do that? Everybody in bodybuilding knows that Masteron is a SERM. That's why it was created, for women with ER-positive breast cancers. Of course, it's going to lower your estrogen level. Well, see, the problem with that is that people also say that Primobolan lowers your estrogen levels, and I've never experienced that. Now, admittedly, it took a long time for the Masteron to crash my estrogen, so maybe I was wrong about the Primo too, because I can't remember how long I ran the Primo to thoroughly test my estrogen levels. What I can tell you is that over the course of the last, I guess, 4 weeks of being on 200 milligrams of Test E along with 300 milligrams of Mast E, my estrogen slowly crashed into the toilet. Now, let me clarify something, because I was talking to a client yesterday, and I'm not picking on anybody. I just want to point something out, because there may be, we may not be in agreement on terms. So when I say I crashed my estrogen, what I mean is that I knocked it out. Like, I guarantee you, if I had gotten blood work done in the last couple of days, it would have been no estrogen, less than the bottom end of the range. I was talking to somebody, and he was like, yeah, my estrogen has crashed, or it's really low, it's 19. And 19 is perfectly in the middle of the range. I know a lot of you guys, I'm going to make a video actually on Trend pretty soon about a study that just came out in 2023. We actually have a new Trend study, if you can believe it. I just found it last night. So I know a lot of people seem to believe that having your estrogen in the range is tantamount to having it crashed, because there's so many people in the community that are telling you that if your testosterone's high, your estrogen should be high. And I patently, absolutely, totally, categorically reject this theory. So, for example, on a range of like 2 to 29, I like my estrogen to be 15. 15 is where I feel the best. And the way that I know that my estrogen is in line, this is something that I learned from Derek, and it's actually absolutely proven to be true in my life. When my estrogen and hormones and everything are dialed in perfectly, I have extreme long-lasting morning wood. So when my hormones are dialed in ideally, I will wake up in the early morning like a fucking tripod if I'm laying on the bed face down. In fact, I have to do certain things in my underwear to accommodate all of this growth, or it becomes uncomfortable. And so when I'm dialed in, I have lots of extended periods of time with morning wood, so much so that it like borders on priapism. And so the thing that's unfortunate about that, and anything else in the human body, is that when changes come on slowly, you don't really notice them. I was talking on my live stream the other night about my wife's voice change, and how we didn't think her voice was changing at all on her cycles. And then I kind of started to notice that I thought that it had. And we had been asking my parents, who are the only real people who were frequently around us, like, hey, do you think, they knew she was cycling, and I was like, do you think Sarah's voice is changing? And they kept saying, no, we don't, we think it sounds totally normal. And then we went back and looked at some videos that she shot, years prior to doing steroids, and there was change. It's not a lot of change, but there's change. I mean, she's lost an entire octave. Like, she tries to sing, she was talking about it in one of her videos, I think she posted on my channel, or maybe it was in a comment that she wrote, that, my daughter tells her she sounds like George Strait when she sings songs in the car. So the thing that's so problematic is, if you do something like, if I take D-ball, I'm gonna grow tits in like 3 days. It's so fast acting. The estrogen will spike so quickly. There's no denying that I'm having estrogenic side effects, because 2 or 3 days, my nipples are just massively inflamed. Well, the Masteron being long acting and not being a suicide inhibitor or anything like that, it kind of just slowly brought my estrogen down. And so it wasn't until I started having some massive problems in the bedroom. And actually, I'm just going to tell you, because I wanted to talk about this on my live stream. My son was in my live stream for some reason. Basically, the first signs of the problem, we had been fighting. And I had been feeling really distant toward her. And so I was blaming the trend. I was blaming the fight that we had about our neighbor that I talked about in one of my videos. And so there was like a lot of things going on in our relationship that I could reasonably point the finger at. And of course, she's always just going to point the finger at Trend, and I'm not trying to hear that. And so I was not paying close attention to the other signs and symptoms. And then I started noticing that, like, usually we have a lot of foreplay during sex, like a lot. Like, sometimes she'll be, vibing it for 30 plus minutes while we watch adult films and get kind of in the mood. So there can be extended periods of foreplay, and then I'll have no problem performing for as long as is necessary, in the actual act. Unfortunately, I can't say certain things on here because YouTube dings my fucking videos, but you get the point. So then the other night, I caught myself being really irritated by how long the foreplay was going on. And then when we went to transition from foreplay to sex, I lost my erection temporarily, and then I got it back. And I was just kind of totally disinterested in sex, which is massively atypical for me. And then what ultimately happened was I couldn't even finish. There was no amount of doing anything. I could not complete the act. And that is 100% unheard of. So I can count on one hand the number of times that's happened in life. And it is definitively a sign of some kind of a major problem. And so when that happened, I was like, oh God, I think I crashed my fucking estrogen. So that's when I started doing, I started re-examining everything that was going on. And that's when I started putting all the pieces together and figuring out, dude, I haven't had morning wood in a while. And it's weird because what happens when you crash your estrogen is, for me at least, I just stopped giving a shit about women. Normally in the gym, especially on a trend cycle, it's like you have pussy radar. It's like you could be in the gym and it's just like ping, ping, ping. You know where every girl's at all times. It doesn't matter if they're attractive, if they're ugly. You're just hyper aware of the presence of women. And I get trend goggles. This has been talked about a lot. Guys on trend or high doses of anabolics, all of a sudden it's you're like, why are there so many hot girls at the gym tonight? And your wife's like, dude, this is the same girls that are always at the gym. You're out of your fucking mind. Nothing's changed but you. So usually I'm overly attracted to girls that are decidedly unattractive. I'm very aware of their presence all over the gym, and I'm all over my wife, and I have extended periods of morning wood. This is signs and symptoms that everything is firing on all cylinders. And then when your E2 starts to go in the toilet, it's like it turns women into dudes. Like suddenly, I would have thought there was like no girls in the gym at all. Or if they were there, it's like you look up, you acknowledge their presence. Like you look up, you see some guy, you know, you don't remember his face. You don't fucking remember what he was wearing. You don't, I mean, unless he's like for me, if I'm in the gym with a bunch of guys, the only guy that I will notice that even exists is a guy who's bigger than me, which is rare. But especially at Planet Fitness, yeah, like at Planet Fitness, I am like Ronnie Coleman. You know, if I go to a bodybuilding gym, I'm pretty fucking big. But at Planet Fitness, I am a giant amongst fucking mortals. And so it's rare that any one guy will stand out to me. You know, my wife will be like, hey, did you see that guy? I'm like, no. No, I didn't. What he was wearing? No, I don't know. And she's like, really? You didn't notice it? I was like, is he bigger than me? She's like, no. I'm like, then I didn't notice. So that's basically the way I am on a trin cycle or high doses of androgens. So when the estrogen starts crashing, that's what happens with women. It's like I look up, I see a girl, you know, it's like I just completely dismiss her. I don't pay any attention. I don't notice if her titties are out. I don't notice if her ass looks good. I don't notice anything. Like I spend most of the time looking at myself in the mirror, just constantly. It's got to look disgusting actually, because I probably just prance around, just fucking obsessively looking at myself in the mirror, because you're just totally turned off to the opposing sex, and so the problem started creeping in where usually like I'm chasing my wife around for it, and then every night we're going to bed and I'm kind of like, so what's the deal? She's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, what are we gonna do? You know, like it was just like sex was just kind of like, what's for dinner? You know, like what do you want to watch on TV tonight? I don't give a shit. It's all boring. You know, I'm not. If I'm excited about something, then it's one thing. Like new season of fucking Wheel of Time comes out. It's like that's what we're watching. Unless there's something I'm excited about, it's like whatever. Just put something on. I'll probably be fucking around my phone the whole time anyway. And that's what sex had kind of started becoming, and I didn't realize it. So I hadn't realized the lack of morning wood. I hadn't realized that I was slowly starting to just totally not even give a shit if we had sex. I hadn't noticed that I was slowly losing the awareness that there's actually girls in the world. All of these things are characteristic of the fact that my estrogen is in the absolute fucking toilet. And then the other night when I couldn't finish, that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I'm like, okay, now something is majorly wrong because this is bullshit. And so that's when I started researching like what the hell is the Masteron doing for me. So that has only served to make my anxiety worse. So like in my live stream, I mentioned that I was confident that I had crashed my estrogen, and I didn't know what to do about it because that's why I don't fuck with SERMs or anything. Like I always control my estrogen purely with Arimidex because it's very predictable and I like the effects that Arimidex creates. So Arimidex is an aromatase inhibitor. So all it does is it when I inject exogenous testosterone, it makes sure my body doesn't unnecessarily convert it to estrogen, which is important to me because I'm like a super tweaker. Like I'm super picky about the details. So let's say I'm injecting 500 milligrams of test. I want the absolute bare minimum of that 500 that I'm shooting to be turned into anything other than test. I don't want it turning into DHT and causing me problems. I don't want it turning into to estrogen and causing me problems. It's wasting my fucking gear. And so the thing with using Arimidex is that I can know scientifically where my estrogen is. So like if this was going on right now and I wasn't on Masteron, then I could go down to the lab and I could get my blood work done. I could check my estrogen and it would flag low. And I would be like, okay, cool, my estrogen's low. I know how to fix this. The problem is that my understanding of Masteron is that it's a SERM, a selective estrogen receptor modulator. So rather than preventing the testosterone that's in my body from turning into estrogen, instead what it's doing is clogging up the receptor. So the Masteron is blocking the receptor, and it's preventing the estrogen that is in my bloodstream from binding to it. So I still have like all of this estrogen floating around in my blood. It just doesn't have anywhere to go. And so my understanding is that if I go get blood work done, my blood work is going to tell me that my estrogen is either normal or high. But it doesn't matter because it's not able to bind to the receptor. So I am now in a state where all I can do is tinker. I can't verify anything with any kind of scientific metric because I have no way of knowing how much of my receptors are being clogged up by the Masteron. I don't know its binding affinity. I don't know how many total receptors there are. Now my big question is it possible to take a dose of Masteron high enough that will block all of my receptors to where it doesn't matter if I have like some gigantic fuck amount of estrogen in my blood, none of it can bind, and so I'm in a perpetual state of crashed estrogen because I've saturated all the estrogen receptors? I'm hoping that takes a high dose. But what's concerning to me is that the dose they gave women to combat breast cancer was 200 milligrams. So if 200 milligrams per week is enough to block a substantial amount of estrogen from binding to the receptor and preventing their cancers from growing, and I'm on 300 milligrams a week of Masteron, is that already too much for me to get a physiological amount of estrogen binding? I don't know. And so so now I'm faced with two choices. I can either take the Masteron out of the cycle, which I definitively don't want to do because it has so many feel-good properties when it's not fucking off my estrogen, or I can do what I've started to do, which is take Arimidex out of the equation because that's definitely not going to help. And then hopefully by just taking all of the Adex out, then my level, I'll aromatize enough estrogen that there will be enough to bind to the remaining receptors and give me a physiological amount of estrogen transcription in my biology, in my body. If not, then I'm gonna have to slowly increase my testosterone level until I get enough aromatization to get enough E2 to bind to the remaining receptors. And this is not the kind of science that I like to do because it's not verifiable by anything other than self-reported experience. And so it puts me into this state where luckily for me, it's pretty easy for me to tell because unlike some of you that don't react to estrogen, if my E2 gets high, my nipples are gonna get sore. I'm gonna have a host of very clear symptoms. And so then I can try to figure out, okay, do I lower the test? Do I up the mass? Like, how do I fiddle with this until I get it dialed in? But whenever I feel like I have it dialed in, it will still be a best guess, and I won't be able to really do any scientific data to determine what the optimal dose is. At best, I guess what I could do is whenever I feel like I have it dialed in, so like let's say I stay at 300 milligrams of Masteron, and let's say I run 300 milligrams of test, so I have a 1-to-1, which is what I did. I upped my test from 2 to 3. So if I'm at a 1-to-1, 300 milligrams test E, 300 milligrams Masteron E, and I take out the Arimidex, and I get to a place where I'm like, okay, I've got morning wood, I'm functioning normally, I recognize girls, I don't have any nipple sensitivity, so I feel like I'm in the sweet spot. Maybe then I could go get blood work done, find out how much estrogen I need in my bloodstream at these doses, and then try to infer where a target for future cycles. Because the thing is that the second that I change anything, this whole game starts over again. So let's say I decide to go back up to 500 milligrams of test. Well, now I'm either, adding more Masteron, or starting to add back in some amount of Arimidex until I dial things back down to a self-reported sweet spot that I cannot definitively know one way or the other is an actual physiologically good place to be, because of the fact that I have a fucking SERM in my system that is basically making, that is blocking the effects of estrogen. So like, for example, the other problem is if my TRT company asks me to go do blood work and I come back with 80 picograms per milliliter of fucking E2, they're gonna go, what the fuck is going on? You know, then I have forced to go, well, I'm taking Masteron, and so I know that looks high on paper, but it's not high in actuality because, you know, only half of that or less than half of that is even binding to the receptor. It's like a whole fucking conversation where if you just control it with Arimidex, then you know, if your TRT clinic wants you to get tested, I go in and I'm like, sweet, no big deal. My fucking E2 is going to come back right in the center of the range. It's not going to throw up any red flags. So that's where I'm at. So as if Tren wasn't a big enough of a mindfuck as it is, now I've got this entire fucking situation where I'm just being a total fucking cunt to my wife, because it's like she went from being this person that I love and am sexually attracted to and want to touch and hug and kiss and be close to, and it's like my estrogen crashes and it's almost like I freak out. It's like, oh my God, I'm sleeping with a dude. Like, I don't cuddle her at night at all. Like, since my estrogen's been crashed, like, I'm as far away from her in the bed as I can get. I have no desire to roll over and touch her. It's like suddenly if you were like sleeping in bed with your wife, you know, like imagine if you like were cuddled up with your wife, you know, and you're like, oh, this is lovely, I love my girl. And then like you wake up in the middle of the night and it's like some 300-pound, 200-pound hairy man, and you're like, ah, what the fuck, you know? You're getting ready to kill this fucking guy. How did you creep into my fucking house? That's what it feels like. It didn't happen overnight. And so she's walking around the house and she's trying to be normal, and I'm like blowing her off like I have a roommate, you know? Like some dude's my roommate running around here, and you know, like she's like sending me sexy pictures yesterday and shit, and like that helped because my estrogen is coming back. But in the state where it was really fucked, but like before I realized what was going on, I mean, like she was non-existent. She could have been like, I probably had more affection toward the cat at that point than I did my wife. In fact, coincidentally, I was in the process of making these fucking roid rage, you know, Tren rant, true alpha videos about I love my cat because she's a psychopath and she has no feelings. Like coincidentally, in the middle of having crashed estrogen, I was literally making videos talking about how I had a better understanding of my cat than I did my own wife, because me and the cat are both just like laying in bed like, fuck everybody else. Feed me and shut the fuck up. Leave me alone. Turn the lights out. And my wife's over here being a human being, and me and the cat are just like grumbling together like, can you stop making noise? We're trying to sleep. We're dreaming about chasing something that we can fucking hunt and kill and torture. Me and the cat are best friends. So yeah, these all should have been signs and symptoms of this problem, and I just didn't catch it. And it sucks because once you're in this state, man, you start doing a lot of damage to your relationship, and it's nearly impossible to fix. Because like she's trying to have conversations with me. You know, we're trying to like have like marital talks, and she's expressing all these emotions, and I'm just getting more and more pissed off because I'm just like, why do you feel that way? Stop feeling everything. Like, why can't you just be like the cat and be a psychopath and everything be nice and easy and black and white? Like, I was literally last night telling her that the whole reason that marriages break down is because women have emotions. Like, if you look up divorce statistics, this is actually a fact. If you look up divorce statistics, if you compare heterosexual couples, homosexual couples, and lesbian couples, gay dudes get divorced at the lowest rate of all couples. And then, like, if you break it down and you look, if you compare in homosexual relationships alone, if you compare lesbian couples to gay couples, to two males in a relationship, the lesbians get divorced twice as much as the dudes get divorced. Because men are easy. It's like, one of the things that we've been struggling with is like, we have all these relationship problems and then it fucks her up sexually. She gets all insecure sexually, and then it's hard for her to come, and then I feel like sex is a failure if she doesn't enjoy it, and then I start getting angry because we're having bad sex that I don't even really want to begin with, and it's like the least you could do is come, which puts all this crazy pressure on her, and so it's just this massive negative feedback loop. And I was telling her last night, like, I'm so sick of women, dude. Everything with y'all is variable. You know, like with a girl, what turns her on one day is a turn off the next. One day she can play with a vibrator and she can finish in 5 minutes, or in 10 minutes she'll finish twice, and then she'll finish again from sex. In the next 3 days in a row, she could be down there with, she's got like, I got her like one of those wands, you know? So she's got like a wand, she's got a bullet, she's got a little sucker thing. She can be like rotating through fucking 3 different toys in 10 different positions with 14 different kinds of porn for a fucking hour and a half, and nothing works. How can this be? How is it possible? I mean, like, for pretty much any dude on the planet, I mean, we could be in the middle of like a fucking zombie apocalypse, and we would be like able to go behind a tree and rub one out in 3 to 5 minutes flat, while the entire world was literally burning around us. And with a woman, it's like, you know, sometimes it's like, you need the stars, the planets to align, and like fucking Mercury needs to be like in retrograde, and, you know, her friend needed to have validated her early in the morning, and if I gave her any fewer than 4 hugs and 3 kisses, she's not gonna come. And that's what I was telling her. I was like, sometimes it's like, dude, imagine like how few sex fights gay guys have. If there's gay guys in my audience, please get in the comments on this. Like, how, I imagine like, I'm sure gay guys fight about all kinds of shit, right? I'm guessing one of them is not like, why couldn't you come tonight? It's probably like never a problem. It's like every single time, it's probably just like a guarantee they're both at least going to enjoy that. And in heterosexual relationships, it's like a fucking, what do they call it? It's like a paradox wrapped in a mystery, buried in a conundrum. And then you take that shit and you put it at the end of a labyrinth that's guarded by a minotaur and Medusa, and you need like a special, like, you need like the fucking, what is it, the Master Sword from Zelda, and like some magic spell to unlock all of this shit. And then maybe everything works out. Holy fuck. I think I've made the point that my estrogen has crashed into the fucking toilet. I do not understand my wife at all, period. I think that I'm getting ready to get divorced, and I'm gonna run away with the cat. That's basically where I'm at today. So somebody help a brother out in the fucking comments section. How do I do this, man? I'm about to quit Masteron, dude. It's like, I love it, but god damn it, I need my estrogen to make sense. So, like, do I just run no Arimidex and just try to figure out, just try to dial everything in by feel? Is that what you guys do? Is there anyone in the audience, anyone on earth that is as sensitive to estrogen as I am, that gets the gyno and all the things? Have you figured out how to dose your test and mast to fix this? Somebody throw me a bone, guys. I'm fucking drowning over here. So anyway, there you have it. Hopefully this has been a little bit informative and entertaining. Hopefully somebody can get some enjoyment from my abject suffering, because this last few days, man, has been something else. So there you have it. As always, we'll see you on the next one.